There it is, okay. Hey there, it's BoardGameDave. Welcome to part 4 of my top 50 games of all time. Of course, I looked at 400 plus games that I've ever played in my entire life, sifted them down to my top 150, and then ranked them all in PubMeeple to get my top 50 games that I've ever played, going back as far as like Clue. So we're going way back for some of these games, but today we're talking about numbers 20 through 11. Now, like I said before, of course, I kind of pre-recorded all these videos, a little inside baseball. Today is June 20th. I'm recording this right before Origins Game Fair because I'm going to that in Columbus, Ohio tomorrow, really early in the morning. And then right after that, I'm going to Japan for 2.5 weeks. So if you're watching this on Sunday, I just came back from Japan Friday morning, I think. So by the time you're watching this, I should be back in the United States. But anyway, I figured I better just make these videos, before these big trips, so I have some videos to edit and work on, and so I don't have to stress about making a video, the day after I get back from Japan. So anyways, thank you for bearing with me as I kind of truck through all of these games. And oh, by the way, I should say this now. Next week, I'm going to be going live for my final top 10 games. This is an idea that I think I had in the back of my mind, and then James Morgan commented on a post I made the other day and said, hey, you should consider going live for your top, your final top 10. I thought that's such a great idea. I think I'd totally forgotten I was going to do that. So next week, if the technology gods comply, I will be going live to talk about my top 10 games of all time, and I'm going to be raving and hollering and getting wild with it. So that's next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you get a notification when I'm going live, and I'll see you there next week at 9 o'clock. I hope you can make it. It's going to be really fun to talk about some of my top 10 games, and I'm sure there's going to be some surprises. So don't be over there being like, I already know what his favorite games are. You don't, because I was surprised by some of the games in my top 10 list as well. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. We're gonna start with number 20. All right, folks, sitting at number 20 is a game called Praga Caput Regni. This is an extraordinary game by Vladimir Suchy, who also did Woodcraft. Now, this also has a really interesting action selection wheel. Now, last week, I was going on and on about these wheels in various games like Coloma and Woodcraft and all these other games that use kind of a wheel selection thing. Praga is no exception. It turns out, I guess, that I really like wheels. Who would have thought? So Praga has this monstrous board, too big for my table probably, but we play this at Gary's house. And yeah, it kind of all pivots around this wheel, pun intended. So the way it works is on your turn, you're gonna choose, this must be like for 2 players or something, there's not that many action discs, I don't know. On your turn, you're gonna choose one of these action pairs to activate, right? And when you take a piece, you do the top or the bottom, one of those 2 actions. I think it's just the one. So you're gonna do that, and then that piece that you chose goes all the way to the back of the line, and then we pivot the whole thing clockwise. So, as good games do, the actions that aren't getting chosen very often, that aren't very prioritized, end up further and further along the track, where the benefits over here get better and better. So instead of spending a coin, you could end up getting points, right? 2, 3, 5 points even, if that action that you want hasn't been selected for the last 9 turns or whatever. So it's a really cool way of kind of incentivizing actions that other people aren't taking. Plus, when you take your action, you also get the bonus printed right here. So there is so much going on in this game, obviously, as you can tell by the board, but let me show you a player board. That might help, and then we'll come back to the main map. So here you go. So the player board's pretty straightforward. You're gonna start with this little 6-sided city thing, okay? And it represents the 6 actions that you take on a turn. Yeah, the 6 icons. So building a part of the wall, or building a tower, or upgrading your engine basically, or building a bridge, or getting stone or gold. That's the 6 things that you do. Now, gold is represented here, stone is represented here, you've got some kind of engine building tracks down there as well, and as you get your resources to go beyond where these cubes are, you release the cubes, and then those go over here, I believe. Oh gosh, where do they go? Oh man, the cubes, I think they go out here where the seals are. Seals are endgame scoring, so that goes there. It's been a while since I've played it, but I have played it a few times. So there's that, there's working on the bridge or traveling down the bridge. That's what this is. I guess it's a wall. So you're working your way across there, and there's eggs in this game, which are really important because at the time, this bridge that they were constructing, they used egg to kind of supplement the concrete. Anyway, and then there's lots of buildings you can build. So there's these gold buildings. They're gonna go onto that 6-sided action selection board I showed you, and they're gonna kind of buff those actions that you take. So there's that. The gray ones are part of the wall that you're gonna build. That's gonna bump you up the blue tower over here. And then there's these buildings over here that they're gonna go out in here in the city as well, and that's gonna put you up the red castle track. So there's that whole thing at the end of the game, but then down here, you've got all these spaces, see these hex spaces where you can put those buildings and tiles, and you want them to kind of share sides with these blue and red tokens and surround certain icons, and it's a whole thing down there. And then at the end of the game, you're also going to score points based on how far you've gotten up each of these castle tracks, and then you want to go over and up, and oh my gosh, and there's glass windows and gold windows and tons of stuff. I mean, what's the weight of this game? It is so, there's just so much going on. What's it say? It's sushi-licious. Yes, it is. 3.7 out of 5. So fairly heavy game, but I think once you've got the gist of it, it's not terribly complicated. You just choose one of those pieces from the wheel, pivot it, lock it down, take that action. So yeah, it's awesome. I really do enjoy this game a lot, and it's that wheel thing. I love that. Number 19 is a game called Glenmore 2 Chronicles. So this came out in 2019, and I was really excited about this game. I still stand by this game being extremely brilliant, even if I don't play very often. Designed by Matthias Kramer. I actually have it right here. I'm debating whether or not to get this out because it's so big, but why don't I go ahead and do that? So give me lots of space here. This is a behemoth of a game, as you can tell. What I really like about this version, this was a remake of Glenmore Chronicles, or just Glenmore, I guess, is that it comes with 8 modules, basically like mini expansions, basically, and you can kind of willy-nilly add them into the game as you see fit. So and the organization is so great. Each of these boxes holds everything you need for the modules. So it might have some cards, it might have some tiles, it might have some figurines, you know, whatever it is that you need. So addressed to a haggis, this has all these haggis tokens. I played this ones with Connor, the haggis tiles. That's like a little push your luck game. It's great. So you can do that, and Between a Rock and a Hard Place, and one of them had Nessie. I think that might have been like a Kickstarter exclusive. But anyway, I like the base game plenty, but there's a lot you can add to the game to make that replayability like infinite. And you can basically mix and match, I believe, any of those modules as you see fit. So, oh, I forgot. Connor gave me the promo Loch Ness Monster. I forgot about that. I think he had 2 copies. Yeah, look at this. So there's the Loch Ness Monster. And here's a whole bunch of cards that correspond with that expansion. So I've got 9 modules actually that I can mix and match there, but I'll put those away for now. And let me just give you a quick overview of the game. So basically, you've got this board and tons and tons and tons of tiles. I don't know, like 100 tiles, right? And they're gonna be all over the board like so. And it's a rondel game. So on your turn, you basically take your meeple and move them up as far as you want to claim one of these tiles and then add them to your tableau. Now, I could show you a player board, but it's actually not very interesting. This is it. No, that's not it. No, it's smaller than that. Anyway, it's just a little duchy or whatever. And basically, you're going to expand your, there it is. You're going to expand your, city or whatever by putting these tiles onto your board like so and like so, right? And there's production ones and scoring ones and conversion things and, ways to kind of build your engine. And then there's also the famous personalities. Now, when you take those, you're actually going to interact with this board right here. Everybody starts right here in Glenmore, I suppose. And then each time you take a famous nobility from Scottish lore, you can kind of make your way out and spread along this. It's not a map, it's like a tech tree or whatever, right? And get instant benefits or ongoing benefits or scoring things or even more famous personages like McKay. So that's the idea there. And then at the end of the game, you score based on whiskey barrels and, there's 4 different scoring phases, and each time you'll score for meeples in your home castle, landmarks that you have, whiskey barrels, and famous people. While the scoring is really interesting, actually, it's all based on whoever has the fewest in each scoring category, so that's what that means. It's really cool. And then at the end of the game, you get 1 point for each coin that you have left over, and also you look at the smallest city based on tiles, the player with the smallest city, and then for every tile you have more than that person, you lose 3 points. So it really incentivizes a small, compact city, which is really interesting because it's not what you would typically think would happen in this kind of game. But yeah, it's really good. I've talked about this a lot with Hannah, and somehow I just haven't quite mustered the courage to teach it to her, but I think at some point I would love to play this with her and see what she thinks, because there's so much to explore that I haven't done yet. Actually, speaking of, I see something sitting right over there. Oh, I'm not putting this away correctly. Am I? Not at all. But I do want to show you this. So Connor let me borrow this ages ago, and I've just been sitting on it like a terrible friend. This is Glenmore Highland Games, which is includes a solo game and some other modules for multiplayer, and I haven't even gotten it out yet. This summer, I vow, Connor, that I will get this out and do some solo playing, but things have gotten so busy for me that I just haven't had a chance. So I will do that this summer, and then I will like Glenmore even more. I bet once I play it solo, it'll go higher in my rankings, but as of right now, it sits at 19, which is pretty good. Number 18 is tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar, which I believe was the very first tea game designed by Simone Luciani and Daniela Tassini, two of my favorite designers. This is such a brilliant game. My friend Etienne introduced this to me, and I was so hooked. We played it again very soon afterward because I really enjoyed it. I played it 3-player, and I've played it 2-player, and I've played it on BGA since, which is a good way to play it. So, weight 3.67 out of 5. I don't know if it's terribly complex, actually. I don't know if it's quite that high, but it certainly does have a lot of moving parts, and it has a wheel, but not just one wheel. It's got tons of wheels, which I really, really love. I think that this is so brilliant. So take a look at this. Now, people like to paint their wheels, as you may have seen a second ago, so don't expect this if you get the game, but it's got this large central wheel, and then it's got 5 wheels over here, and the way the game works is absolutely brilliant. So on your turn, you can either place out workers or retrieve workers, as many as you like. So on my first turn, for example, I'm gonna place, if I can afford it, let's say I put 3 workers out, okay? After my turn is over, the whole internal wheel pivots, which of course pivots all these 5 external wheels. So it's kind of like a gear, right? And the core of the game, the crux is, the longer you can keep your workers in these wheels, right, the more they rotate, the better the benefits get when you finally pull them off. But the catch is you only start with, I think, 3 workers. So eventually you do have to do a retrieving turn. So it's hard to let them ride, all the way along the wheel to get the really lucrative benefits, is the push and pull of the game. So like over here, you pull them off after 1 step, you get 3 corn from the river. River corn? Ugh, gross, right? If you let them stay in another time, you get 4 corn from the field, right? Then 5 corn or 2 wood, then 7 corn or 3 wood, or 9 corn and 4 wood, right? So each of the wheels has something like that, where the longer you sit, the better things get, but again, it's hard to pull off. Also, by putting a worker on a gear space, basically you allow somebody potentially to hopscotch over your worker and get to some of those higher benefits. So there's that as well. You've got to feed your workers at 4 points, I believe, throughout the game. There's like a scoring phase. Is it twice? I forget. But there's also these idle tracks right here that you want to kind of move your way up, because they're going to score twice throughout the game. There's buildings you can get. Sometimes they're one-time abilities, sometimes they're scoring abilities, sometimes they're passive abilities. So there's so much going on in this game. But again, it doesn't get over complex. It's not unbelievably fiddly and complex like Trickerion. It's actually very elegant and streamlined and fairly intuitive. So yeah, tzolk'in, it's been around for a while. It's a 2012 game, but it is very exceptionally well designed. I think it's awesome. And it's a lot faster than you probably think. It says 90 minutes. I don't think that's actually overstating it. I think you can get a game done in an hour and a half, maybe even a little less at 2 players. So anyways, tzolk'in, it's really, really good. Number 17 is Endless Winter. Now, you might recall very early in the history of this channel, I was raving about Endless Winter before this game came out, when it was still, I was playtesting it a lot on Tabletop Simulator and helping with, the design in a very, very small way. I was, going on and on about how I thought this was the #1 game for me. It would be my favorite game in my collection. Now, I still stand by the amount of hype that I have for the game, and I think it's an extraordinary game. That being said, it is sitting at number 17. So let me get this out, and I'll talk a little bit about why I think this didn't maybe go as high as I thought it would when I actually got a copy. So first of all, it's a really big game and it's a lot of setup. Well, it's not a terrible amount of setup, but it is a huge game. And even for me with my table that I have here, it honestly, like, we run out of space, just me and Hannah. So you really need a lot of space to play this game. My playmats are down in the basement, but it's huge. It's a huge game. I guess I can't really show you the board without the playmats, but just imagine that this whole, twice the size of the frame is covered by playmats, right? So in this game, essentially what's happening is you're doing some deck building, you're doing some worker placement, you're doing some set collection, you're doing area control, you're doing megalith 3D building. There's a lot happening, and I really love the way that all those things interact, right? So you start the game with 3 workers. You've got 2, where are they? You got 2 basic workers. Here we go, okay? So everybody gets this wonderful insert, right? So there's your 2 regular workers, and then you get a chieftain right there, right? So 3 workers per round, you put them out on the board and you activate, whatever you want to activate. Now, this is a little bit tricky because I don't have my playmats. Here you go. So this will certainly suffice. This would be the normal game board. So here you go. So here's your 4 actions, right? You can initiate new members into your tribe. You can craft things from basically, it's like your culture deck. You can migrate around the board, and then you can go hunting, right? So there's 4 things you do, and you just take your meeple and you work your way from top to bottom. If you're the first one in that column, you get to take the additional bonus here. You can worship at the idle track. You can bury cards, which is how you thin your deck. There's a whole thing about the burial track. You can get tools and food. That's the 2 main resources in this game, which you'll track here. You can move your tents around the board and get some animal cards from the display. So that's the basic gist. I mean, it's 4 actions. That's all you gotta know. Now, beyond that, of course, there are some other things. Like I said, there's building megaliths. That's what these things are right here. So these things go on a megalith board where you take bonuses as you cover them up. Your huts are going to go on the big map board, which has lots of different types of terrain, so you can get resources from there at the end of each round if you have the most influence in those terrain. That's what the tents are for as well. Here's the idle track where you'll go up for end game scoring and during game bonuses. And then this is the supply or the display of animal cards. So there's all of that there. Tons of cards, culture cards that you can play to kind of buff up each of your turns. There's a ton of modules. You may know about this about Endless Winter already. There's Ancestors expansion, there's cave paintings, there's rivers and rafts. I mean, there's so much you can add into the game. I haven't quite organized them all into the base game, but here's the cave paintings, which is actually like a flip and right basically game. You're gonna be kind of connecting these dots and getting what's inside there. But yeah, I honestly think, so why did it not rank higher? I think 1, it's a little bit overwhelming because there's so much to it and it can scare some people off. And it's hard to like get this played because it is such a beast of a game. 2, I love all the different mechanisms, but at the end of the day, I think lately I've been kind of prioritizing, or you'll notice the games in my top 50, they have some kind of like interesting hook. There's something really unique, like Praga Kaput Regni has a really interesting wheel. Woodcraft, again, has a really interesting way of doing the action selection, right? tzolk'in, really innovative. I mean, I don't think that was done before, where, there's that middle gear that rotates all the other gears. Endless Winter has so many cool things going on, but none of them are super unique. I mean, like deck building, fine. Worker placement's good. It's got the area majority. It's got site collection. It's got all those things. And I love all those different things. And I love the way they come together, but none of it's really unique. And I think that just, the game doesn't quite shine because there's no like hook about like, okay, what makes this game super unique? And also, once I got the game and I played with some people, they had some feedback. It wasn't their favorite game, and they were like, oh, I don't like this certain aspect of the game. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, I could sort of see how that's a fair critique. Like, some people say the game goes a little too long. Like, you have this 4th round where you've kind of already done a lot of the things you wanted to, so you have this bonus round where you're like, okay, I kind of did a lot of things I already needed to get done. Also, the solo mode is good, but it's not a great solo mode. It doesn't feel very responsive or interactive. And I found that the hard mode wasn't even hard enough. So they actually came out with an official harder solo mode. So I should give that a try. But anyway, that's how it ended up at 17 and not higher on my rankings. But it is what it is. I'm just gonna you know, I'm not gonna argue it. That's where it ended up. Number 16 is a game called Rajas of the Ganges. This is a game I've had a chance to play a few times. It's been out for a while and I haven't played it in some time, but it uses dice. It's a dice worker placement game. And I really, as we're finding out through these last couple of weeks, really like dice placement. So you've got your dice, you're gonna use them to activate different spots on this board. And there's a lot of places you can go with your dice. Let me see if I can find a good picture of the board here. Give me 1 second. And you're in historic India, by the way, is the theme of the game, which I find very, very lovely. So let's take a look at the board. Here you go. So you can use your dice to move your way along the river. That would be putting your dice here. If somebody goes there before you, have to pay some coins to do that. Depending on the value of the dice, you can move further along that river and gain benefits. You can go over here and move up this worship track. I think that's a building multiplier for each of those types of buildings in your city. Going over here gives you special abilities. It's a really good way to do things, right? I think this icon means karma, so you can move up karma, which lets you mitigate your dice, I believe. Down here, you can use dice to get 2 of other kinds of dice. Same idea here, 1 for 1. You can go here to re-roll, so there's that whole thing going on there. 1 through 4, you pay the coins. This is how I think you put buildings into your city. Again, it's been a while since I played. And then there's this really interesting thing about where you put these buildings. Here they are, right? Where you put those into your city, because you want the roads to connect. And as roads connect back to the edges of the board, you can get certain benefits. So here we go. That's a good example. If you look at this board right here, right? They've got all these tiles, and I think you start with a pre-printed palace or something like that. And then if you can draw a line from there all the way out to the edges, you get those benefits. So coins or dice or things like that, right? And again, depending on the number of different icons you have there, that corresponds to this, where you can, again, score points based on how many you have. Rajas of the Ganges also, by the way, has the really, really interesting thing where you have one scoring track going this way and the other scoring track going this way, and I forget what they each represent, but when they cross, that's what triggers the end of the game, and then your score is basically how much they've overlapped, which I find super fascinating. It's such a great way to kind of, you know, buck the traditional, you just get points, right? You have to sort of balance, okay, do I want to go heavy on this track or go heavy on this track, and where do they intersect? And yeah, very clever. I would like to play this again. I know there's like a Rajas of the Ganges roll and write game or something, but yeah, I am very interested in playing this again sometime soon. It's number 17, right? 16 on my top 50. Number 15 is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. This is a game that Connor's been kind enough to let me borrow. This is another game from Garfield Games. It's my favorite of the West Kingdom trilogy. It's actually my favorite of all those trilogies, actually. I think I like it more than Raiders, and it is really, really good. So it's a higher weight, it's fairly complex. Let me show you this game. Again, thank you to Connor for letting me borrow this. I've been using it for solo play. It's really good. I'll have to do a solo play Sunday at some point of this game. But as usual with Garfield Games, they pack a ton of game into a very, very small box. But here's the general crux of the game as I destroy this castle. So first of all, you got this wonderful 3D castle tower thing, and that goes in the middle of, oh, this really fell apart, okay? A board that's assembled sort of like this, okay? So you get the basic gist. I'm not gonna put it all together, but it's something like that, okay? Throughout the course of the game, on each turn, you're gonna be playing a card onto your player board. So you've got a player board that looks like so, right? And pretty much at any given time, you're gonna have 3 cards on this board, right? So as you play a card, for example, maybe I've got a card like, I'm just gonna draw one out of the bag here, if I can open it. So I play a card like this, right? I'm gonna move that many spaces with my Viscount. My Viscount is this horse person right here. So let's say my horse is here. I could go 1, 2, I could go 1, 2. I can also pay some extra coins to go further. So maybe I could go 1, 2, spend a coin and go there, right? When I get to that spot, I can do what's printed on the board. So spend those blue goods, I forget what that's called, trade, I guess, to get coins or gold or stone or whatever. If I come down here, I could start loading some of my meeples up onto the tower, which is kind of like an area majority thing. And you want to get those meeples up the tower. So once you have 3 meeples in one space, one of them bumps up and the other 2 go to the side. So you want to get them all the way to the top. That can give you big scores and one-time benefits as well. You can also instead use your ink wells, right? These little ink pot things right here. You spend those to get these books. There's going to be a stack of books there, like so. And again, that can give you endgame scoring and instant benefits as well. So that's the basic gist. But like I said, there's also multiple cards. So next turn, right, this guy's going to slide down. I'll put a new card here. And then the next turn, I'll have 3 icons like this, 3 cards, and each one has some icons printed. So ink pots or hammers or fleur-de-lises, which correspond to those different building actions, or trading, building, getting meeples up onto the castle, and getting those books. So yeah, there's a lot going on. It's not terribly complex. Again, I think once you get the idea, it's fairly intuitive, but it is so much game in such a tiny package, and I really, really love Viscounts. The solo game, I think, is really compelling as well. I think this is the solo game on the backside. But yeah, like I said, stay tuned for a solo play Sunday down the road, because I would love to give this a try solo for a playthrough down the road. So that's Viscounts, sitting at number 15, really high on my top 50 list. Number 14 is Rococo Deluxe Edition. Now this is a beautifully ornate and grandiose large game that I was borrowing from Gary for quite some time. I did a solo playthrough of it. You can find that down in the description down below back in the day, but it is such a great game designed by Matthias Kramer, who did Glenmore Chronicles, and some other co-designers here. It is a gorgeous game all about creating dresses and frock coats for nobility in the time of Louis XV in France, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The art is amazing. Isn't it Ian O'Toole? I think it is. Yes, and Eagle Griffin Games, who goes way above and beyond with their production quality for these big box games. So anyways, this is a hand management game, sort of like Concordia, where you've got these cards like this in your hand, and then you're going to, if I remember correctly, I think each turn you just play one of those cards, and you're going to do what it says on the card, but also the type of worker that it is lets you do different activities. There's masters and journeymen and apprentices, right? And they each can do various different things. But according to the type of worker, you could do, oh, this is perfect, okay? Let's see. If you played an apprentice, you could do one of these 3 things. You could get resources, so that's thread and like silk or fabrics, right? You could put a discount on the board. This is a whole kind of area majority thing. Each room has musicians, and there's like a fireworks display, and each one of those is a area majority thing, so you can do that. And then you can also discard your card for coins, right? And then the journeyman can do these 2 things. They can craft a new dress or frock coat, or gain the favor of this lady. I forget who she is, but that's first player, right? And then if you're a master, you can do all of these things, which is, you know, getting resources and making coats and all that stuff. But also you can gain new workers. And that's a really, really big part of this game, is going to the card display and recruiting, here we go, more workers. So it's kind of like a deck building game too. It's the deck building, hand management, upgrading your deck to better cards. And then you'll cycle through all those cards throughout the course of like 5 rounds, maybe. It's not a terribly long game. So anyways, you're doing that. And then as you build dresses, you're going to put them out into these halls. And like I said, there's that area majority thing. So each time you put a dress out into one of these ballrooms, you put your little icon on there, and then the end of the game, you look up here for the points given to the person with the most majority. There's also an income phase, and can bump up your income by putting your tokens in the kitchen. This gives you 1 extra income for each, like, you know, musician, you know, you've patronized or whatever, and then this is 1 coin for each garment that you have out. So that's the basic idea. It's really, really, really great. I love, there's so many things I really like about it. One is the whole market row. As there's fewer options, they get cheaper. So that happens here with recruiting new cards. Same thing over here with getting, you know, component resources and dresses and stuff. So I love that. It's a brilliant game. It's probably overproduced, but I don't mind it, because it makes people who otherwise probably wouldn't play a game like this be like, ooh, what's that game? I want to give that a try. So, and it plays up to 5 players. It plays really fast with even that many players. So yeah, great stuff. I love Rococo Deluxe Edition. Number 13 is a game called Heaven and Ale, and I am positively obsessed with this game. It's by Michael Kiesling and Andreas Schmidt. Again, Michael Kiesling of Azul fame, but also designed Riverboat, which I talked about in a previous video. So in Heaven and Ale, you are monks and you're brewing beer in the age of monastic brew crafting, I suppose. And there's something just so brilliantly, elegantly brilliant about this game, so much so that I printed out Heaven and Ale tips for new players that I was teaching. That's how much I was emphatic about this. I mean, I literally typed these up for new players. But anyways, the way this game works is you've got your own player board here, and then you've got the rondel here, right? And each round we're going to populate the rondel with these little tiles. So they're valued 1 to 5, and there's wheat and hops and barley and wood and water and different things that you might need, yeast, to get your fermentation brew crafting process going. So each of these spaces will have one of those resources. These monk spaces are going to have a monk sitting on those spaces as well. And it's basically a rondel game, kind of like Marco Polo, like, oh my gosh, like Glenmore Chronicles, right? So you're gonna take your person, you're gonna move as far as you want to, and then pay for that tile and put it onto your board. Now, let's say I was taking this yeasty 3, right? 3 of yeast. If I put that tile in my shady half of the garden, basically, I just pay 3 coins, I put it over there. If I put it on the sunny side, I pay double, I pay 6. But here's why these two halves are different. As I activate tiles on the shady side, they just turn into money. So the 3 yeast would turn into 3 ducats, right? 3 coins. On the sunny side, that's where you're gonna produce that resource. So if I have 3 yeast and I activate it, that's gonna give me 3 yeast. So that's why you're paying more, because you need to get those resources to make beer. At the end of the game, the whole point is to make beer. So if I'm the yellow player, I've got all my little discs, right? And they're gonna correspond and go on the barley spot, or the barley spot, hops, water, yeast. You get the gist, right? And if I produce 3 yeast, my yeast token would go 1, 2, 3. Now I officially have 1 yeast, right? At the end of the game, the whole idea is to get all your resources hopefully somewhere along this track, right? You're also going to be moving your brewmaster up. Your brewmaster starts here, right? And wherever they end up, that little section, that tells you the conversion rate at the end of the game. So if my brewmaster's here, I can convert 3 of any resources for 1 of any other resource. So let's say my water's here and my wood is here and my hops and everything else are here. I need to get that water up. So I spend 3 to move up 1, spend 3 to move up 1, spend 3 to move up 1, spend 3 to move up 1. You want to get those resources as close together as you can, because whichever one's lowest, that's how many beer you make. So in that case, maybe I only made 5 beers times 3 points per beer that I made. That's super great. And there's games where you might get to the end of the game and not make any beers, which is absolutely horrible, but it happens, right? There's also monks, which trigger all tiles adjacent to them. There's also objectives. There's 12 different objectives where you can stop at an objective scoring space to claim those objectives. There's a lot going on. It's very, very, very clever, and there's so much I like about this game. This is ripe for a review somewhere down the road, because I like it so much. So yeah, Heaven and Ale is great. I love playing this. I think I'm playing it at Origins, maybe. I'm not sure, but it's such a great game. You should check it out if you like Michael Kiesling or Azul making beer. It's definitely a fantastic game. Number 12 is Marco Polo 2 in the Service of the Khan. This is a game that I truly became obsessed with. I've talked about this several times, I think, along the way in other videos, but fairly heavy game, 3.38, designed by Luciani and Tassini, again, the guys that make the T games, so no surprise I was gonna like this game. Now, it's 2019, so not terribly new, but it was really hard to find a copy. I actually ended up getting a German used copy. That's how desperate I was to get a copy of this game. The only non-English game I think I have in my entire collection, but anyway, thankfully the rules are printed here in English. Now, I don't get to play this game that much. There's really no solo mode. You know, I've played a solo just like to see what score I could get, but unfortunately, you gotta have some other people to play this with, and I never played it with. You know, I might have played it with Hannah actually, but I don't think she was super sold on it actually. So let me show you how this game works very quickly. You've got this big board out here, and this, kind of like Rajas of the Ganges, is basically a dice placement game. So You're gonna roll your dice, and you're gonna put your dice in different places to activate different things. So, you probably can't see. Let me show you the bottom half of the board first, right? You might go here to get these contracts. These contracts or whatever, they're not contracts, they're, what are they? I think they're called guild seals. So you can affiliate yourself with like the Pottery Guild, the Garment Guild, whatever, right? And that's gonna let you take these shortcuts right here, and they give you other benefits as well, potentially. So there's that. You can always spend a die to get 3 coins, 2 camels, or a jade. You can spend them over here to do some traveling, which is really important. You could go here to take the offer of the day. That'll change per round. There's a stack of things that you'll put there. There's also 2 cards over here where you can put dice. You can put dice here to get 2 camels and 4 coins. You get the gist. Oh, and getting contracts is what you'll do over there. That's really important. And if you want to kick out other dice, how does it work? Oh gosh. I think you have to pay coins equal to the pip value on your die that you're using to replace other dice. I think that's how it works. So that can punish you, or it can backfire if you've got all 6s or whatever, right? And then beyond that, again, when you go down here to pay to travel, right, you're gonna send your apprentices or you know, assembly members, ambassadors, I'm losing my mind. You're gonna be spending the coins and camels and, you know, jade or whatever to move to these different spots. Now, obviously most of this board is blank. That's because it's super variable. Each of those city spaces is gonna be populated by a unique city tile, and that might look like, those are the market things. Where would they be? They're in a bag, I'm sure. Is that it? Yeah, so that could be a city, for example, right? You could go there to get gold or jade or pepper, you get the idea. And then the first person to go to each of the cities gets a one-time bonus that's sitting on top of that, right? And then there's like multipliers. These are income things where once you go to a city, you activate that income. So you can get 3 points per income phase, and there's 6 rounds, I believe. So that's a lot of points you can get. So, excuse me. There's the resources. There's the guild seals. I have metal coins for this game that are sitting right over there. They're beautiful, incredible coins from Moedas & Co. that I got a long time ago. And I don't get to use them, although I use them for other games, but even still. So anyways, that's the basic gist of the game. But, probably one of the most important things is that each player at the beginning of the game is going to get their own specific famous person in, you know, East Asian history, like, not Genghis Khan, since this is a sequel, but, oh, good gracious, it doesn't really matter, but I'm curious. Mungay Khan, or Ababasu, or Daewoo, or Mailin and Tianxin, or Isabella Donati. You get the idea. And each one has an extremely strong power that takes place for the whole course of the game. So are they balanced? I don't know, but they're really, really fun to mess with. So I'll have to get this out sometime. Me and Gary kind of do a game day from time to time. I think it's my turn for the next game day, and I get to pick all the games. So I might put this on my list to make sure this gets played, because it's such a good game and it just doesn't get played enough. So Marco Polo 2 in the service of the con. You should check it out. It's a great game. Great stuff. All right, we're ready for the last game of the day. And by the way, if you're thinking, wow, Dave seems really like extra unhinged today, I told you that I've been batching all these videos. So I've been going nonstop since number 50 to number 11. And it's been a huge bulk of my day, honestly. And there's so much I need to get done before I go to Origins. And I'm going to see Gary and Connor tonight. So yeah, if I seem a little frantic, it's because there's a lot going on and I need to pack for Japan, and I'm renovating the upstairs. Of course, you might know that there's a lot going on already, but that's okay because we're at number 11, everybody, and it's one of my favorite games. So it is sitting somewhere, and it's called Concordia. Concordia, as you can see here, I think it's the only game I've ever played by Matt Gertz, which is very upsetting because I love this game. I have a hunch that I would love pretty much all of Matt Gertz's games. I know he has a lot of Antica, and oh gosh, what does he have? Tons of good games. Let's see, Antica, Imperial, Navigador, Hamburgum. So lots of games I need to check out, but I do really love Concordia. It's ranked 22nd overall, so that gives you an idea of how good this game is. I think it's sitting under the table. It is. Give me 1 second. It is down here, folks. Here we go, Concordia. So I used this game for a solo play Sunday a long time ago. You can check that out if you want to know more about how Concordia plays, but it is truly a brilliantly designed game. I appreciate its elegance so much, and that's how it beat out a lot of the other games on my, top 50 list, because I just kept going back to how unbelievably simple the game is. So here's the board. It's got all these different provinces. It's got a card market right here, and it's got little tokens that go for each province, okay? Pretty straightforward. Don't worry about the map too much. You actually don't really need to see this. I'll just show you one tiny piece of it like so, okay? But the game is all based on these cards. So you start the game with a small hand of cards, and they don't say too much, but they tell you what you're gonna do. So on your turn, literally, this is all you need to know. You play a card. Boom. Diplomat, right? Copy somebody else's face-up card. That's not a great example. Architect, right? Move your colonists around the map. Well, that's pretty easy. Prefect, right? You're going to trigger one of the provinces and do some production, which means if I have a house sitting on a city in that province, it's going to produce that resource, which is pretty awesome, right? Mercator, take 3 coins and do some trading. You get the idea. It's really simple. And on someone's turn, all they do is take the cards in their hand, pick one and play it, right? Eventually you'll have to rest, and that's your resting action. Actually, there's a card that is the resting action called Tribune, right? So you play that, you get some money, you maybe put a colonist out, and then reset, take all your cards back. That's it. It's so easy, right? And beyond that, the cards themselves are scoring multipliers, right? So Jupiter gives you 1 point per city, I believe, that you have out. That's a non-brick house that you have out, right? Mars is 2 points per colonist. Mercurius is 2 points per different kinds of resource house that you have out there. You get the gist. And of course, a big part of the game is using your senator. Where is he? Using your senator to get more cards, right? Purchase up to 2 new cards from the row, the market row. And that is really important because it has that other thing that I love a lot in games where as you buy cards, the rest of them slide down. So the ones that just showed up are really expensive. The ones that have been out for a while get cheaper and cheaper. I love that in games. Stone Age does the same thing. Many games do, but there's that as well. So the whole point is to accrue resources, spend those resources using this handy dandy chart right here, right? Different resource houses cost different goods and money, so you're gonna be doing that, building them all over the map, and then cashing in to get more resources, to get more cards. Of course, like I said, the cards that you get are the scoring criteria, the multipliers. So it's so brilliant, and I just keep coming back to just how cleverly designed this is. I need to get this played more. It's been out for 10 years now, actually. It's due for like a reprinting. I would love to see this reimagined with better art and some kind of deluxe version. Maybe they'll do that a la Castles of Burgundy. I would love to see it, but that's Concordia. It's so great, and I think honestly it ranks so high because of Solitaria, which is also sitting around here somewhere. I hate to keep leaving you all, but this came out, a year or 2 ago, and this really made Concordia go way higher in my opinion because it came with a solo mode and a co-op mode and a dummy 3rd player mode if you're playing with 2 people and you want more of a tight experience. And this really makes the game shine. So between that and the base game, Concordia is phenomenal, and it's my number 11 favorite game of all time. And there you have it, a very chaotic and wild part 4 of my top 50 board games of all time series. The last one I'll be filming today. Thank goodness my voice is starting to give out, but that's okay. Next week, I will see you live for my top 10 board games of all time. Be ready for some surprises, for some underdogs, for some old favorites. Some of them I'm sure you'll be able to anticipate, but I'll see you live 8 p.m. Eastern time. I will be posting the video preview sometime, so make sure if you see it, you click it, hit set reminder or something like that. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell down there so you'll get a notification when I'm going live, so I can catch you next week, again, 9 a.m. Sunday morning Eastern time for my top 10 games of all time. And then the week after that, I think I'll probably talk about Origins and Japan and all the good stuff and catch you up on my life. But in the meantime, guys, of course, leave some comments down there below. Tell me why Concordia is so good. Tell me what it is about having an ale that makes that game just so freaking satisfying. Tell me what macro game I should play next. There's so many things you could tell me about these wonderful games. So leave me a comment. I'll get back to you. I guarantee it. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week. take care and happy gaming. I'll catch you next week, Sunday. Don't miss it. Bye.